Hey guys, Jack Cypher here. We're going to continue the Red Dawn series, and I've got a good one for you guys today. We're going to be discussing how powerful is Pain. And how about we start with, was Pain the strongest member in the Akatsuki? And I would say the short answer is no. If you say Obito is part of the Akatsuki, and I do think he is, then I would say Obito gets the W on Pain. However, the main argument that people have is Pain versus Itachi. Who's stronger? It's a massive debate. And I'll be totally transparent. I think Pain actually goes over Itachi. Now, I'll get into that match more specifically later on in the video, but for right now, let's just go over some of Pain's techniques. Pain's most notable ability is the 6 Paths of Pain, or the 7 Paths if you include Nagato himself. The Paths of Pain are corpses that Nagato controls that can each use a specific ability. It's Nagato's main source of strength. The first Path of Pain I want to talk about is the Animal Path. And like the name suggests, it's a summoning path that allows Pain to summon animals. Its most notable summoning creature would have been the massive 3-headed dog that has the ability to multiply as it struck. He could also summon a giant bird that shattered out massive explosives, a chameleon lizard that can be used to help Pain become invisible, and a few other powerful summonings, like a panda, a rhino, an ox, centipedes, and even a freaking giant crab. He can even use the animal path to summon other paths of Pain. Now, people underestimate how powerful summonings are. It's Jiraiya's main form of strength, not including Sage Mode, obviously. And even a summoning creature like Gamabunta was able to contend with Shukaku, a freaking tailed beast. So, I'm not saying all of Pain's summonings are as strong as Gamabunta, but the principle of his summoning creatures, most ninja just would not be able to deal with a threat like that. And if you're not a high Jonin level like your Kakashis and your guys, then I would even go out to say that this path alone would take out anyone weaker. Some ninja may be able to take on one, but if Pain summons 3 or 5 of these things, they're taking out most of the Naruto cast, which is a scary thought. But now, let's keep going. Next, we have the Praetor Path. Now, this is one of the more dangerous ones. The Praetor Path can be used to devastating results. It's low-key a very great, underrated defensive technique. Massive Rasengans? Nah. Deadly Rasen Shurikens? Bitch, please. It can absorb any type of jutsu or any type of chakra. So not only is it used defensively, but it can also be used offensively by grabbing hold of a victim and draining them of their chakra. It seems to work fairly fast as well. Another path that is used for more of a supplementary use is the Naraka path, which gives you the ability to summon the King of Hell. This path is mainly used to revive any of the other paths if they happen to fall in battle. Now, question for you guys. Could this technique be used to heal a living person? If Konan got injured, let's say, could Pain summon the King of Hell to injure her? Question mark? I would say yes, but let me know down in the comments. It can also be used for interrogation. By grabbing hold of someone, the King of Hell will appear behind the path and pulls out the victim's tongue or life force, killing them if they're lying. Now, this interrogation ability probably wouldn't be used much because the next path we're going to talk about, the Human Path, has the ability to read a person's mind by taking out their soul. This technique is much better for information gathering. Pain used it on Shizune to acquire the location of where Naruto was, killing Shizune in the progress. Even ignoring the mind-reading ability, the Human Path's ability to take out the soul is a deadly weapon. Now, admittedly, against someone as powerful as Naruto, the technique would be much harder to use because he first needs to restrain Naruto, and it takes a while to take the soul of someone as strong as Naruto out. But against weaker ninja like Shizune, and don't forget, Shizune is a competent Jonin in her own right, but the Human Path can rip out a soul like that with ease. It's really scary stuff. The next two paths are more offensive though. The first is the Azura path, which is pretty much a mechanical path full of weaponry. It's equipped with blades, missiles, laser cannons, and all sorts of weapons. It also has great offensive strength, being able to crush Jiraiya's throat while he was in Sage mode and tear off his arm. Not only does it have great offensive strength, it also has incredible durability and endurance, being able to survive massive hits from Choza and Choji, as well as a Chidori from Kakashi. But now we get onto the good stuff. We get onto the Diva path and Nagato's main source of strength. This path has the power of repulsive and attractive forces. And just like it sounds, he's able to push something away or pull things towards him. Now, that might sound simple, but this can be used to devastating results. His almighty push ability is only limited by the amount of chakra he puts into it. He was able to destroy an entire village with this attack. It does have the downside of a recharge. For a normal almighty push, it would be 5 seconds, but anything stronger than that will correlate to how much chakra was used for the initial blast. The attractive force is called Universal Pull. It draws enemy in with massive strength, leaving the victim being unable to do anything. The Diva path is essentially kind of a mix between magnetism and gravity. There is also a stronger level of this technique called Chibaku Tensei, or planetary devastation. It creates a black core that utilizes the attraction force of the Diva path to draw in and absorb everything around it, creating a massive medium of rock, ground, people, just any form of matter. This was strong enough to even restrain the Nine Tails for a short amount of time. It also is the technique that Madara and Sasuke would go on to use to devastating results. And the seventh path is Nagato himself, the outer path, putting Nagato beyond life and death. Nagato not only has the ability to use all 6 of the paths I've already spoken about, as he can also use all nature transformations, but he also can bring back the dead, an ability that was originally supposed to be used for Obito's sake. But thanks to meeting Naruto, who gave him a change of heart, he used it to restore all the people of the Leaf Village that he had just previously killed. Now, interesting enough, this technique, it doesn't really seem to have too much of a limit. Well, no, it does have a limit. He can't revive every person that's ever been killed in the world, but it's not just a life for a life thing. Nagato uses it to revive an entire village, and then proceeds to die for his sacrifice. But Obito used it, against his will admittedly, to revive Madara, and this was said that even though he didn't die immediately, that it would have killed him, which is interesting that there isn't a set amount of people that you can bring back with it. But either way, a very powerful jutsu, yet a little bit irrelevant when it comes to power scaling a character. There's just one more thing I want to mention about the paths specifically, and that's the fact that every one of the paths and any of the animals that they summon all share the same vision. So what one sees, everyone can see, giving them a more advanced version of the Hyuga's Byakugan. This, on the surface, doesn't seem like much, but it's an incredibly dangerous ability when it comes to a fight. Nagato, though, has more abilities than just the 6 paths of pain. We see that Nagato at a young age had a good grasp on elemental techniques, thanks to his Rinnegan, being able to use all 5 chakra natures. And as he got older and began to be called by his alias of Pain, he'd created quite a few other jutsu that don't get talked about that much, like the Rain Downfall jutsu, which allows him to observe and keep track of everything that's happening in his village, a great technique to prevent infiltration, or the Astral Projection technique, which allows for Pain to pick up on the thought waves of the Akatsuki members and use himself as a control tower to summon them to a location in hologram form. He also has the jutsu of impersonation, which we spoke briefly about in Kisame's video, allowing Pain to utilize his allies to impersonate a sacrifice so that they can fight from a distance without having to leave their spot, a good technique to use when they need to defend themselves while sealing a tailed beast. He was also the one that created the barrier that prevented Team Guy and Team Kakashi from infiltrating the hidden Akatsuki base. It was so strong that it couldn't be busted through no matter what. It needed all 5 seals to be removed simultaneously. And segueing from there, another technique that he created is the mirror reflecting technique, where once you remove those seals we were just talking about, it creates copies of yourself and you're forced to fight them and have to overcome yourself to progress forward. And speaking of seals, we also have the 9 Phantom Dragons jutsu, the jutsu the Akatsuki used to seal the tailed beasts. Pain can also use the black rods as weapons to attack opponents. These rods in question can be used to subdue opponents by overriding their body with Nagato's chakra, paralyzing them. But those are pretty much the most notable techniques that don't revolve around the Rinnegan. But they do just go to show how wide Pain's arsenal really is. But now that we've got his arsenal out of the way, let's go about trying to decipher just how strong he is. Now let's first look at the main feat that we do know about him, and that's that he fought his former master Jiraiya and won. Now this was an incredible fight, and it was a good showing of both characters' prowess. It also showed us just how powerless a base Jiraiya is against someone like Pain. Jiraiya needed to resort to Sage Mode to even be able to contend with Pain. One impressive feat that we see early on in this fight is after Jiraiya activates Sage Mode, he uses his incredibly fast hair senbone technique, and with the help of the shared vision between the Rinnegans, Pain was able to summon a panda shield to block it. And yes, I just said that. A panda shield to block a Sage Mode jutsu. Now this is Jiraiya's fastest attack in his arsenal, and Pain was quick enough to be able to summon a creature to block it from a very, very short distance away. Now all I can really say about this is that it's a great speed feat. I unfortunately don't really have a way to try and scale it because we don't see Jiraiya really fight anyone else in Sage Mode. We're only told narratively that it's Jiraiya's fastest technique. And we know Jiraiya scales to at least Kage level, and most likely a bit above Kage level. And if you look at it like that, you can kind of analyze for yourself the type of speed that we're looking at when you think about that this is his fastest jutsu. But as the fight proceeds, we get to see another great feat of Pain, and it's from the Azura Path, and we briefly mentioned it when we were going over the Azura Path, but it's when he rips off Jiraiya's arm and crushes Jiraiya's throat. Now, all throughout this fight, Jiraiya is pretty much put on the defensive, very much struggling against the number advantage. His ninjutsu is just being nullified through the Praetor Path, absorbing it, forcing Jiraiya to have to resort to taijutsu. And this is the main strength of Pain. There's 6 of them. You try take one of them out and you get swarmed by 5 others. Your jutsus get nullified by the Praetor Path, and your physical attacks can get crushed by the Diva Path. You also have the Animal Path being there to be able to summon animals to get an even greater numbers advantage on you. You have to fight up close and personal against the Azura Path, and we all saw how Jiraiya did with that. And then you have to watch out for the Hacks abilities from the Naraka or Human Paths. It's almost unfair. It's like a gang of bullies in school, all the toughest kids in your year level, just ganging up and beating the shit out of a younger kid. The fight that I want to talk about next is the clash with Sage Mode Naruto. Now, I think many people think Pain is weaker than he actually is because of this fight. And people forget that Pain's main strength, his main weapon to strike down his opponents, is his Diva Path. It's the strongest path, and it's out of commission when this fight begins. And his Azura Path, his other main form of offensive strength, gets taken off guard in a speed blitz by Naruto as he comes out of nowhere and takes him out with a Rasengan. That leaves Pain with only, when you think about it, 4 paths left to fight. The Animal Path, the Praetor Path, the Human Path, and the Naraka Path. Now, like we said earlier on in this video, the human path and the Naraka paths are more of supplementary fighters, basically making them human meat shields and distractions. The main threat to Naruto in the beginning of this fight are the animal path and the Praetor path, and Naruto takes advantage of this and proceeds to take them out one by one. The only one he really has an issue with being the Praetor path, because after the Diva path gets his abilities back, Naruto gets captured, but uses some quick ingenuity to draw in nature energy, and the Praetor path would turn in, basically, he'd get frogified, thanks to the nature energy that he couldn't control. Now, once again though, if it was anyone else in the series other than Naruto at this point, they would be dead, because they wouldn't be able to get out of the Praetor Path's grip without Sage Mode. After Naruto takes down the Praetor Path, it's left to be a one-on-one fight with the Diva Path. And even then we get to see Pain overpower Naruto and subdue him. I can't imagine what this fight would have been if it was a tournament-based fight, where both fighters face off against each other at full strength, let alone a fight where Naruto isn't even fully aware of Pain's abilities. It would have gone a whole different way, and I don't think Naruto would have done nearly as good as he actually did here. I think Pain would have pretty much got that W fairly easily. And I don't know if that statement's stepping on anyone's dicks. To me, though, it's just the main factor of just how strong Pain was. Because when you think about it, this Naruto is said to be stronger than a Mangekyo Sharingan Sasuke, which is a stronger Sasuke than the one that defeated Itachi. And yes, we all know that Itachi was holding back in that fight, but that gap between Itachi and Sasuke would have been filled up a little bit by Sasuke awakening his Mangekyo Sharingan. While even then, it probably wouldn't have been at that Itachi level, Naruto at this time is said to be stronger than Sasuke, which would further fill up that level difference between the Mangekyo Sharingan and the Itachi. And even if you were to downplay Naruto, and say Sage Mode Naruto was at the level of sick Itachi, and that would therefore make Pain stronger than Itachi. Now, the only flip side of this, pretty much, is if Itachi can use the Totsuka Blade or the Yata Mirror in a quick manner to try get the GG on Pain. But I just don't think that would happen, especially if it was a fight that was happening after it had been revealed that Itachi possessed those two spirit weapons. Because Pain could come up with a countermeasure to just outlast Itachi in that matter. Considering that Pain has a lot more chakra than Itachi does, not to mention Itachi's sickness, as well as the limited time he can have his Susanoo activated. Now, one other potential win con for Itachi could potentially have been Genjutsu, and I bring that up because I want to speak about Genjutsu and how and if it would affect Pain. Now, with the help of Ma and Pa, Jiraiya was able to trap Pain in the Toad Song. Now, the reason this was able to capture 3 of the paths so easily is because Pain was Jiraiya's student, and he knows everything about Jiraiya. He knows Jiraiya is lousy when it comes to Genjutsu. It wasn't something that he had factored into, so he was pretty much completely caught off guard. Now, the Frog Song made 3 of the paths paralyzed, giving Jiraiya free range to stab them. But let's say, for instance, that Itachi hit him with Tsukunomi. And every time we've seen Tsukunomi, it's been used to inflict mental torture on the target. Now, would this work on Pain? After all the Pains are animated corpses, and like with Ibiki, we see the Pains not reacting to any type of pain or damage, being immune and pretty much just not being able to feel it, which would make sense if they were just corpses. You could make the argument, though, that Tsukunomi could work on Pain, given that Nagato does share vision with the 6 paths, and that Nagato himself would get, drawn into the jutsu. But given that the Frog Song didn't affect the 3 paths that weren't caught in it, then I would say you can't use a Genjutsu on the paths to affect the real Nagato, if that makes sense. Also, like we said before, I imagine if Pain knew he was going up into a fight with Itachi, that he would get around that because he would know what Itachi is capable of and know that he can't be looking into Itachi's eyes. So, however you want to dice it, in my opinion, Pain is going over Itachi. Now, Edo Itachi, that's a whole different beast. Him being able to use his Susanoo, Totsuka Blade, and Yadamira changes things a lot. Edo Nagato versus Edo Itachi would be another very interesting fight that would be cool doing a video on. And I definitely think I will in the future. But we're talking about all these amazing things that Pain can do, and that he can go over Sage Naruto, that he can go over Itachi, but where does he cap off at? Now, I think that even Orange Mask Obito would still probably get the better of Pain. If you were talking about in character, then Obito would definitely just come away to Nagato's real location and just take him out that way. But if we're going by that tournament setting, I don't see Pain being able to really do or touch him. There's only two ways Pain would ever go over Obito, and that would be one, with the numbers advantage. If you could get some summonings out there, it would make it an even bigger numerical advantage, and you could potentially search for counterattacks necessary to take down Obito. But Obito would be aware of all of Pain's abilities and know which paths he needs to take down first to cripple Pain's fighting force. Not to mention, Pain's main form of strength is the Diva Path, and I just don't see it being able to really be effective against Obito. Obito does have the time limit of only being able to remain intangible for 5 minutes, but we've never seen Pain display the ability to use the almighty push for 5 minutes consecutively. The only way I could see him win with more certainty would all be dependent on how the Praetor Path actually interacts with Obito. Now, if the Praetor Path was able to touch Obito, would it nullify his Kamui? We've seen the Praetor Path's absorption ability, and it works pretty quick. So if having his chakra absorbed, would that disturb his chakra flow enough to prevent him from being able to become intangible and slip into the Kamui dimension? I'm not exactly sure. I would probably be leaning more towards that it wouldn't prevent Kamui, and that Obito could just use that close distance that he had with the Praetor Path and absorb him with Kamui, because the Praetor Path isn't nullifying chakra, it's just absorbing it. So I do reckon Obito could be quicker and absorb the Praetor Path first, before the Praetor Path absorbs enough chakra to make Obito helpless. But if you were to say the Praetor Path would nullify the ability by upsetting his chakra flow, then I definitely would say Pain would get the W in that fight. Now, people like Madara and Hashirama would definitely get the W on Pain, as well as all of the Otsutsuki clan. Now, Minato would be an interesting one. I've never really thought about it, and I haven't seen any videos on it either. I'll have to give more thought onto that one, though. Obviously, we're not talking about Edo Minato with Kurama and stuff, just a live Minato. But yeah, I'll give some thought on that one and potentially do a video on it. So, the other than, like, our Madaras and Hashiramas, Obito would be outclassing him, definitely anything White Mask and above. EMS Sasuke, KCM 2 Naruto and above. Now, I specifically withheld KCM 1 because I reckon that would actually be an interesting fight. Now, I imagine lots of you would probably just say Naruto stomps, and that I'm just a moron for saying it. But depending on how clever you would say Pain is, and how his abilities would interact with Naruto, then I could potentially see some win conditions there. I reckon if I had to put money on it, I would say KCM 1, but I'll do a video on that one in the future once I've looked at it a little bit more. Boy, am I getting a huge catalogue of verse battles that I need to do. But back onto who could beat Pain. Of course, you also have 8 Gates Guy and End of War Kakashi. And the only other one than that I would want to mention would probably be Kabuto. Now, I think Kabuto would win if you gave him his reanimation soldiers 100%. But if you took away the reanimation soldiers, it would be an interesting fight. If Pain was able to use an almighty push to completely destroy the cave that they were in, that would really only leave Kabuto's main weapon being the White Rage technique. And I would probably say that would affect Pain as well, since they all share a line of vision. I imagine the blinding light would affect Nagato, giving Kabuto enough time to probably get the GG. I'll look into that fight more as well, but I would definitely lean towards Kabuto, just off the top of my head. Because unlike the Genjutsu we were talking about before, in the White Rage is a Senjutsu technique, so I think it would actually affect the real Nagato, but definitely leave it down in the comments what you think. But honestly, when you look at it that way, there really aren't many characters that are stronger than him. Not including the Otsutsuki clan, because they're just bullshit. There's pretty much only 7 or 8 characters who I would say were definitely stronger than him. And I reckon that goes to say a lot about the god of pain and salvation. Now, anyway, guys, it's been a really, really fun time making this video. I've been wanting to do some more verse battles recently, and I'm definitely going to get into that next, I think. And I just wanted to say a quick shout out now about why this video was so long to get through. Not only was it Easter and I was doing family stuff, but I was having issues with my laptop as well. But if you've made it this far and you've liked this video, make sure to like and subscribe. And tell me how wrong I am about all my verse battles and unpopular opinions down in the comments. But for right now, I've been Jack Cypher, and Cypher out.